Hello and welcome to a new edition of Lantern Sports Now. Let's take a look at what happened in Buckeye sports this week. Fresh off their annual spring game, the Ohio State football team is still unsure of who will be the day one starters for some of the most prominent positions. Dwayne Haskins, Joe Burrow, and Tate Martell were still fighting it out as spring football came to a close, and as of now, the fight looks like it'll carry over into the summer. Joining me now is the Lantern Assistant Sports Editor, Edward Sutland. Ed, what did we learn about these quarterbacks after that spring game?
I guess it's pretty much just we learned everything that we already knew. We knew that Dwayne Haskins had the best arm of the group. We knew that Joe Burrow was going to be the best dual threat option of the group. And we learned that no one can tackle Tate Martell. Part of that was because he was wearing the black jersey. It's against the rules to tackle him.
Yeah.
But also it's because he looked like the most elusive quarterback out there.
Okay.
This guy looked like you just really couldn't touch him. He reminded, I saw people tweeting about comparing him to Braxton Miller. The one thing that I think it's sort of proved to me as someone who had been a bit of a Tate believer before I actually saw him play was that he might not have the arm needed in order to be that starting quarterback for him. I think Burrow looked like he always does. He looked like the best combination of the two. He had that dual threat capability, but just some of the throws that Dwayne Haskins had, the touchdown that he had to Jalen Harris, some of the other deep balls that he threw later in the game. He just has one of those arms you really just can't teach, and I thought that really could be what ends up separating him in this battle.
Now, head coach Urban Meyer was not ready to name a starter after the game. Is it reasonable to think that heading into maybe as late as fall camp, the end of fall camp, this team still won't have a starting quarterback? And if so, what does that mean for the two guys who end up losing that job?
It's sort of an interesting thing. I don't know necessarily that it's going to be that long until a decision's made. Meyer had sort of hinted earlier that he's going to try and have a decision for the sake of Joe Burrow. After the spring game, Joe had said that he wanted to be able to have all the credits needed to graduate in the spring so that way he would be able to control his own destiny. Mm-hmm. Now, it sounded like he may not necessarily transfer, as a lot of people sort of suspected that he might if he doesn't win the quarterback job. But I still think that that's going to be something that's on the table for him and that he might do in the event that he doesn't win the job. I do think that this is a quarterback battle that could potentially go into the summer, but I think by the time the semester starts up in late August, I have to imagine that they pretty much will know who's going to be starting under center for Ohio State. If
you had to take a guess now as to who the starter would be, who would you say?
It's going to kill me because I was so on board the Tate train. Mm-hmm. I'm probably going to say that it'll be Dwayne Haskins at this point. I think, like I said earlier, he just has that arm you just can't really teach. And it's part of the offense that Ohio State hasn't had in a while. And I think that they have some receivers on the team right now who could potentially benefit from a guy with that kind of power arm like what Dwayne Haskins has.
Now, Meyer said in that press conference after the spring game that he's looking for a guy like Benjamin Victor and their receiving core to step up. If he were able to step up, or someone in that group, how important will it be next year for them to have a go-to receiver? Because this year they had the 6 guys who would get yards in spurts, but how important would it be for them to have someone that they could go to in moments of need, in need of a first down or such?
I think it's going to be really pivotal for the team. That was one of the things last year. They had 6 starting wide receivers, which almost just doesn't even make sense to have that many. I think that it's going to be really important for them to have sort of that one guy that they can turn to. You need a catch, third and 10. It's late in the game. You're throwing it to X wide out. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know necessarily that guy's going to be Benjamin Victor. He still is a bit lean. He doesn't have a ton of separation. While he can jump as well as anyone, I think that he's going to be more of their red zone threat. I do think that he has the potential to solidify a starting spot over some other guys. I think if anyone's going to make that push to become sort of the top wideout, especially if it's Dwayne Haskins, I think that wideout's going to be Austin Mack. Those two have been, they've grown up as friends, or at least since coming to Ohio State, they've been really close. Mm-hmm. They've always seemed to sort of have this really strong connection with each other. And I think that if anyone's going to make that jump, it's going to be him. He has the skill set needed to be that guy. Jalen Harris is someone else who I think could sort of step in eventually and be that guy. But like Johnny Dixon, Paris Campbell, KJ Hill, I think they're all really solid wideouts. Terry McLaurin, like they're all solid. But I don't know that they have what it takes to really step up and be that top guy. I think Austin Mack probably does, though.
Yeah, and now moving, a lot of the talk so far has been about the offense and how the offense is going to look. But this defense, and more specifically the secondary, struggled at times last year, especially with all the turnover that they've had in the past few seasons. And this year they're losing a guy like Denzel Ward and a starter in Damon Webb. With Alex Grinch coming in, what influence is he going to have, and how good could this secondary be, given the fact that they've lost 2 starters?
I actually still think that it's going to be a pretty strong secondary. I think that, it's really tough to lose Denzel Ward, obviously. It's really tough to lose Damon Webb, too. In fact, Urban had said after the game that field safety is still his #1 concern, and that the group of Isaiah Pryor, Jocelyn Wynn, and Brendan White, they hadn't really made any separation. Mm-hmm. I think that in the end, Isaiah Pryor's probably going to come out with that. Pryor was a guy who came in, had a lot of really high expectations. He's been mostly special teams so far. He did play a little bit last year, sort of Jordan Fuller's backup. And I think that he's going to be a guy who gets in there and does play a fair amount. And I think he has the potential to be really good. And I think that, Jordan Fuller, too, the talk pretty much all spring has been that he's been like the top secondary guy for him.
Yeah, Urban's really happy with him right now.
He's really happy. Yeah, Shiano was really happy with him too. I think Fuller's going to be probably the best defensive back that they have, and it might not be super close. Now, how the cornerbacks all shape up, that sort of awaits to be seen. It's probably going to be a bit of a weird situation. Not only did they lose Denzel Ward, but they lost Kerry Combs, their former cornerbacks coach. And while I think Taver Johnson's going to be pretty solid, it's getting used to a new sort of system for him and for the corners. Now, Okudah's definitely got what it takes to be like that top shutdown corner. He may still need a little bit more development. He's obviously coming off shoulder surgery too. Kendall Sheffield has the tools needed. He's probably one of their fastest players, especially now that Ward's gone. And I think Arnett could step up and play a little bit better than he did, especially down the stretch. Mm-hmm. And they have a ton of cornerback depth. They have the talent that they need. It just sort of depends, are they all going to be able to mesh together and sort of form this strong unit that Ohio State has typically had in the past and maybe didn't have last year?
Yeah, normally Urban and his cornerbacks like to have 3 guys rotating, but he said he wouldn't be afraid to maybe expanding that rotation a little bit, just depending on how everything plays out over the course of the rest of the offseason. Well, thank you for coming in, Ed. Appreciate it as always. Now let's throw it over to Brendan for an update in Buckeye recruiting.
This week's recruiting spotlight is on Josh Proctor, who is a 6'2", 190-pound safety out of Owasso High School in Owasso, Oklahoma. He is a 4-star and is ranked 13th at his position in the country. He is athletic and very lengthy, which is a good combination for a safety. He runs a 4.68 40, which shows that he has solid speed for his position. Proctor is also a smart player who is good at reading offenses and reacting quickly to different plays. His most notable offers outside of Ohio State were from Georgia, Oklahoma, Texas, Florida, and Michigan. Be sure to check back for another edition of the Recruiting Spotlight. Now for an update in women's basketball, let's toss it over to Alicia.
Thanks, Brendan. Just a week ago, former Ohio State women's basketball players Kelsey Mitchell and Stephanie Mavunga were drafted to the Indiana Fever in the 2018 WNBA draft. Following many questions of how the team will fill the void next season of losing 2 of their top players, the Buckeyes recently picked up the number 12 international player in the 2018 class. Dorka Juhasiv signed a national letter of intent Monday to play for the team this fall. Since 2015, Juhasiv has played on several Hungarian national teams and has averaged 11.7 points and 9.4 rebounds at the FIBA U19 Women's Basketball World Cup this past summer. Others who joined Juhasiv in the 2018 signing class are Janae Crooms of St. Andrew's School in Rhode Island and Aaliyah Patty of Montini Catholic High School in Illinois. That's all we have for you, the last spring edition of Lantern Sports Now. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Snapchat and Twitter. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the fall.
See you in the fall.